All right, so of course the Phantom is the new saddle from Tethrd this year. I of course used this quite a bit over the season hunting this fall. And what you'll notice as kind of differences from the Mantis, number one, the way this thing is sewed, you can kind of tell just by looking at it. It has a little bit of cup built in, and it's a symmetrical design. So the net effect that that has is it makes it so that sizing isn't as big of an issue, and it also makes it, at least in my opinion, a little bit easier to find that initial comfort. There's less fine tuning and tweaking of bridge height and or bridge length and tether height and all that kind of stuff. The other thing you'll notice is that on the Lineman's loops, they're actually sewn differently. So the Mantis, right, you had your Lineman's loops that were just on kind of the top band. Well, now it's just one continuous loop for your Lineman's loops. So when you're hanging there off the tree with your Lineman's rope, you'll actually feel that tension on your entire saddle versus just all that stress concentrated around your belt line. The new amsteel bridge is adjustable. I personally never really run it at full length. It's just kind of my personal preference. I find that with this saddle, I like running a little bit shorter bridge, and that gives me some additional opportunities I'll kind of explain in a second once I jump on the tree here. But then the other thing that allows you to do is when you put the saddle on, you can actually tuck everything out of the way. So I'll put the saddle on quick, and I'll just step through, just like you would with a normal saddle. You can tell that the structure of this is a little bit stiffer, so it's easier to keep it all kind of open as you're putting it on. Snug it tight, and then reach straight down, grab those two leg loops, and then I'll lock them in so that I have the T-hooks coming in from the top, right into those orange loops. After that's connected, I'll cinch that tight to kind of keep everything snug and out of the way. And then usually the tag end of this bridge, when I'm hunting, I'll be wearing pants with pockets right here on the sides. So I'll just take that tag end and I'll just stuff it in a pocket so it's totally out of the way. There's a range that's listed on there, right? 28 to 40 inch waist is kind of like the general. In reality, you can actually push a little bit higher than that. But if you factor in, lots of bulky clothes and bibs and things like that, it's just kind of the conservative top end range. But I hunted out of this a lot last year, and my wife and I would actually switch off using saddles. So I would take the saddle off one hunt, give it to her, she'd hunt out of it, and it was just no issue. We were able to each hunt out of it really easily without any issues with sizing. And we've had just tons and tons of people running through the booth today, and I don't think I've seen one person yet who hasn't thought it was comfortable. Usually with tether height, myself personally, I would always range from kind of top of the head to bottom of the chin, depending on the tree, somewhere in that range. But I found that with the Phantom, I personally like a little bit higher tether height, and I can rock a lower tether height too, and that's not an issue. But when I run the tether really high, it allows me to swing around the tree a little bit easier and be able to push off that platform and just get a little bit easier range of mobility around the tree. One other key difference with the Phantom versus the Mantis is that the Mantis, we just had that straight webbing right through here, right? But now we have the comfort channels. So you notice right now when I just sat in here, this bridge is hooked into that highest comfort channel. So I can feel more pressure on kind of the top side of the saddle versus the bottom. And if I want to transfer more of that load underneath me and get more of that cupping sensation, what I'll just do is slide it in to a lower comfort channel. Now I get the sensation that a lot more of that pressure is on the bottom of the saddle underneath my backside and almost nothing around the hips. It's like this almost feels loose, right? So you can really play around, occasionally get those goofy trees where it might even make more sense to have one side of the saddle on one comfort channel and the other side of the saddle on a different comfort channel. And it's all just, it's flexible, it's easy to use, it just, it works. Whether or not you're typically a leaner, or if you're more of a sitter, again, you can kind of play around with those comfort channels and just fine tune whatever makes the most sense. For me, I usually like to say I'm about an 80% sitter, and then I'll stand and lean for a few minutes every now and then, just kind of stretch my legs. Well, you'll find guys that are the opposite too, and you can make either work, obviously. With the different haulers on the sides of the saddles, I usually have one of these recliners just stuffed in there, and I'll pull that out on the hunt. And the way this new recliner works is that you basically put it over your shoulders and just snap it right into your main carabiner here. And then you can tighten that up And then of course, with all this excess on mine, I just, snipped it off wherever I thought I was gonna be at a reasonable length. And now, if I'm sitting in here and I got my comfort channels fine-tuned and I'm leaning back into that recliner, I can sit here all day, and I have sat here all day for plenty of sits throughout this entire season. Of course, if you want to, you can use knee pads. Some guys like to use a pad on the tree. I've kind of gotten to the point now where, especially if I'm wearing like bibs or something, my knees are just accustomed and they're sort of calloused, I guess. They're acclimated to the pressure, so I don't find that by this time I really need to use them as much. The other thing I like to do personally is, with the excess rope in the tether, I like to just tuck that out of the way through one of those lineman's loops so that I don't have anything dangling here and it's one less thing moving when I'm around in the tree. If I were to be filming, I would oftentimes put a camera arm right here, put on a wide angle action camera, even a 360 camera on the tether, and have that camera basically follow me as I go around the tree. And I'll usually run a head cam too. The one thing I've noticed too with this adjustable bridge, and I'll show it as a right-handed person here, when you have this thing adjusted a little bit shorter, what you can have this basically do is you can fine-tune this length and figure out what works for you to get to a point where as you rotate, it'll actually cause a stop, right? So this is as far as I'm gonna rotate, and because that rope has a tight bend, it's not gonna cause that prusik to slide any further down the bridge. So I'm locked into this position, and now I can draw my bow back, and then I can just feel comfortable in this position, feel nice and solid all the way through my body, and then I have that maneuverability of my upper body to maintain that nice T-form if I have a shot that's at a steeper angle. In terms of getting different shot opportunities, of course, your strong side is always going to be your easiest side to be able to get shots. So anywhere on this side of the tree, it's a very easy shooting opportunity. Even to straight behind me, very easy. And then of course, you can continue to go around to that back side of the tree like this and be able to get that maneuverability. Shots on this side tend to be a little bit more difficult, but again, you got a couple options. Running a high tether, you can swing around to this side to be able to do that. Alternatively, if you're trying to shoot over there, you can go around to this side, and again, because that predator is biting into the tree well enough, you can just kind of push off. See, I got only 1 foot on that predator, and I'm able to push off and still draw around and shoot to that side of the tree. A third option to be able to shoot to that side of the tree is I'll actually take 2 fingers, put them in the carabiner right like this, and I got my bow in my left hand, and then I will just actually put the bow underneath the bridge and just pull myself up and stand on the platform. And at this point, the tether is actually holding me kind of tight to the tree, right? So then I can draw back and shoot like that. It's not great if you have a really steep angle because then you can't maintain that good T-form, but it is a nice option to be able to also get to that side of the tree with minimal amount of movement, and you don't have to swing around the tree, especially if you're skylighted. So it's just different options. With this recliner where it's at right here, with most compound bows, this is just, it's never really an issue in terms of getting in the way because of the string angle. It always keeps the string above where that recliner is. But if you do feel like you want it to be out of the way when you're ready to shoot, it's just a matter of loosening up the tension and just naturally letting that fall down, and then it's totally out of the way. And if you guys look at my North Dakota hunt from last year, where I was wearing the Phantom, you can tell that recliner has, when I'm ready to shoot, kind of slipped down, so it's totally out of the way. I hope that was informational. If you guys have any questions, feel free to either send them to Tether or send them directly to me. I'll be able to answer anything probably you guys have questions about, having used this new system for quite a bit. And thanks for watching.